सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज.
The miseries of material existence and the most hopeless conditions of life is the best possible opportunity to turn to God.
You're listening to Bare Knuckle Bhakti Shorties on the Bhakti Recovery Podcast with Jiva G, coming at you every Monday with a little spiritual something. Hello, my chickadees. Hare Krishna. Hari Bol. All glories. All glories to surrender. How are you guys doing? I am out for my walk and it's raining, but it's still very beautiful. Everything is lusciously green. The spring has relentlessly sprouted, and grasses are green and overflowing, and the trees are budding with flowers and leaves. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. This is all Krishna. All Krishna's creation. All of it. I wanted to talk about a couple of things this shorty, and they're pretty deep subjects, and I'm going to share a bit about myself and share a little bit of myself in service. It's not always easy because some of these things are highly intimate, and I would definitely consider it sort of a tapasya to share processes. I think we all like to look good. We all like to, we like to be, I don't know. I don't mean, well, I do mean it. We like to look good in front of people. We like to be like, oh, look, Jiva, she's got it together. She's, and while, I've worked very hard to get whatever I can get together for what I have received in life and for the things that are challenging for me, there's still work to be done. And that's actually what I wanted to talk about, which is the perfect slide into my conversation. First of all, I had this conversation with a very important mentor to me, and he's been guiding me lately. And he came up with something the other day which just shook me. He just said to me, Jiva, you are attached to a narrative. And this narrative is blocking you from letting other people and yourself grow. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Having that narrative hasn't served me. Well, it might have served me, that narrative. The narrative of nobody will ever come through for me. And you will never be enough. You will never care enough. Someone can never care enough, can never be supportive enough, can never just be enough. And I will hold you responsible as a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's a setup. It's a setup. Basically, when somebody comes into my life, they're set up already. Not everybody, but depending on what my expectations are, of course. But the people who are intimate in my life. I think in the big book, it's the old big book, 449, acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. Also, when he was talking about his wife, I think Lois, right? Lois, yeah, duh. She, Bill W.'s wife. You don't love me, see, you don't love me. Check out that chapter. I think I've just sort of blew the reference. I haven't read it in a while. It just popped up into my head. So it's a setup. Are we setting people up? I'm going to let you in my life. Here are the parameters. And here's your ceiling. I'm giving that person their ceiling. And that ceiling is the mirror of my own expectations and my own disappointments in my own life. It's been set up. It's a setup. It's crazy. Where does that come from? Well, my mentor says it comes from my childhood. Now, I believe that. I also believe it might come from past lives or karmic reactions, that plays a part as well. But let's just face it. I mean, we can talk about all that stuff and it helps to a certain degree, but if I'm not willing to grapple with what's in this life, why do I even need to think about the old lives, all the other past lives? So in my life, my parents were not enough for me. And I learned through that filter that nobody will ever be there for me enough or in the way I needed. Let's put it that way. Maybe they gave their all, but it wasn't what I needed. Maybe they were completely off. And yeah, they were faulty. But that created a narrative in life of, hey, you're on your own. You're not going to get your needs filled, and no one's going to be able to do it for you. And that's how I approach the world. That's why when we say principles before personalities, and why AA shouldn't depend on one single person. Also, BRG shouldn't depend on me. It depends on the group as a whole. The principles, the traditions, just like Gaudiya Vaishnavism, just like being a Hare Krishna. Depends on the Vedic scriptures, what we're learning. And yes, why we have gurus and all that stuff. That's been a very difficult thing for me with that narrative that I have. Very difficult. It's hindering my Krishna consciousness. Those trust issues. I'm learning trust right now. What does that mean? Am I learning to find the perfect person? I think that's a part of it. Yeah, I'm learning to try to find the perfect person who's not going to let me down, who's going to have my back 247, who's not going to let me down. But I think I'll also be learning is, yes, that person will let me down, but I can trust them anyway. And I can love them anyway. And I'm learning this. And I can feel safe with them. These are things I don't want to talk about, people. I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to talk about it. Why do I don't want to talk about it? Because it's annoying and it bothers me. But I have to talk about it. You know, my spiritual life till now, it's been like one big IKEA furniture. And you can always see the result at the end. The result at the end, if you miss a couple of screws, if you miss, you know how sometimes like at the end of, you build something, you're trying to build IKEA, you know, you order it, you bring it home with some complicated instructions, which terrible for me anyway. And there's at the end of building it, you realize there's like 5 screws that weren't put in. You put, you know, something else in backwards, and you put the top shelf down by the bottom shelf, and then it's wackelig. What is that in English? It's wobbly. It's wobbly. It's a wobbly shelf. So either we put our stuff in there anyway and just said, oh, who cares? Makeshift something, or we have to disassemble it and do it again. Sometimes we think it's not very important, but it is. It's freaking important to build that shelf properly. And if I can't read the instructions, I need to ask other people to help. And I think this is a great metaphor because I didn't have anyone to read the instructions with. I had those instructions and I was completely overwhelmed my whole life. And nobody could tell me those instructions. And when they could, I wouldn't listen to them anyway. And the reason why I wouldn't listen to them anyway is because I was used to having to do it by myself. And so that's this self-fulfilling prophecy. I want to learn how to trust people, and I'm learning that right now. And there's a couple of people in my life, thank Krishna, who I can totally rely on. And they can rely on me. If that person asks me to do something, I will stand there and say, yes, I'm here for you. 100%. And this is part of the whole umbrella of liberation. To be liberated from our anarthas, to be liberated from, what does that mean in our in our tradition? What does that mean? Liberation. Vedantically, it means liberation, and then we merge into the nothingness and to the universal form of whatever. I'm not attracted to that. That's not something that it's interesting to me. I know what it's like to compartmentalize liberation from certain behaviors, anarthas. I was liberated from the obsession to use drugs and drink and live a cruddy life. I was liberated from that burden, literally. and never bothered again. Completely, miraculously, never bothered by the urge again. But it's not like that with everything in life. One would think, oh, okay, well, I know what liberation is. Like, I've been liberated from drugs. That's one little teeny thing. That liberation should be in conjunction with service to the Supreme Lord Krishna. In service. You know, some parts of our tradition would tell us liberation is not achieved by our own power, of course. And it comes through our sadhu sangha, it comes through being sincere, it comes through devotional service, it comes through chanting. You know, I think for me, I started to find out that I wanted a relationship with Krishna more than I wanted a relationship with my attachments. That's what sort of everyday life looks like. It's not going to be the pounding into submission like it was when I was using drugs. But it looks like this time with certain narratives that I have that I'm completely attached to, which is a setup for myself and everyone else. That's going to take some time to work through. That's going to take some work. I'm willing to do it. I don't want to be controlled by that. Being controlled by that mood, that's not nice. I think we talk about in AA also we're the director, the actors, we're everything. And when everybody doesn't, play their roles the way it's supposed to go on in our heads, then the whole thing is a disaster. Shit, I don't even want that control anymore. But I see I have that in some areas of my life. I want to be a servant of Krishna eternally. What does that look like? Maybe it looks like what I'm doing now. It might not be completely in the mode of goodness because I don't even know if I know what that is. But it's definitely the decision to what to be in the mode of goodness. That's for sure. I think they're in different. I think there's 5 kinds of liberation. There's one like merging into the Brahman, and this is yogic. And then there's I think the second is living. I think going to Krishna Loka, and then being near Krishna in a sampradaya, I guess. I think one is becoming a demigod or something. Maybe I should do some research before I say this, but no, I think so, yeah. And then I think the 5th is having opulences like Krishna. I mean, prema bhakti is pure love of God. That's also something I struggle with. I think we all struggle with it. But one thing I do struggle with is having the belief that somebody on this earth has that. I know that's a really horrible thing to say, and we should really think that, but my narrative is not allowing me to give that to somebody. My narrative is hindering me to see that. It's hindering me to give to I think it's probably just completely out of the realm of my own thoughts. Plus the trust issues. It's a setup. My mind is a setup. I've already told you the end of the story when I've met you. Not everybody. Please, don't misunderstand me. But there are some people, certain people in my life. I meet you. Within 5 minutes, I've played out our relationship. This is not conscious. I'm just saying this is what happens in the subconscious. The end. And then everything else is just sort of see, I told you. See, I told you. See, I told you. And then I can't see the good because that narrative is in my head like a broken record. I don't want to be there anymore. I don't need that. I don't need that. So the liberation that I want is true love of God. I want to rest at the lotus feet of the Lord eternally. I want to serve at the lotus feet of the Lord eternally. But it won't happen until I get rid of that narrative, unless the Lord wants me to stay in that narrative until the next life. I don't know. But I'm going to tell you one thing. I'm going to do everything I can to get out of that narrative. Everything that I can to get out of that narrative. That narrative sucks. Thank you, Mr. Mentor, for bringing that up to me. I am eternally grateful for this mentor, and I'll never forget what he's done for me. Anyway, it's been a really beautiful walk. I'm going to continue walking and thinking and hashing this out. And I wish you guys the most beautiful week of self-realization, true love of God, surrender to Krishna. Be aware. Be aware of your narratives. Be aware of how they're hindering you to go forward in your spiritual life. Hare Krishna, my friends. Love you all. Thanks for listening. I hope you liked the Monday Shorties. Don't forget to check out our full-length episodes on Thursdays. If you like what you heard, spread the word.
सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज.
The miseries of material existence and the most hopeless conditions of life is the best possible opportunity to turn to God.